Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day 10 of 31 days of tutorials. My name is Ryan Hafey with Hafey Digital, and in this video we're going to talk about how to properly set your shutter speed for video. Let's do it. So before we get into how you should set your shutter speed, let's talk a little bit about the difference between frame rates and shutter speeds when it comes to video. So let's assume that you're shooting at 24 frames per second. That essentially means that your camera is going to capture 24 individual images over the course of 1 second. Now conversely, the shutter speed basically determines how long each of those frames is exposed for. Now if you're shooting with a slow shutter speed, you're typically going to have a little too much motion blur. You're going to see a lot of streaks and a lot of trails behind movements and things like that. And if you're shooting with a super fast shutter speed, you're going to be completely freezing the action inside each of those frames, so you're going to see no motion blur at all, and it might look a little unnatural. So that said, there is a rule of thumb when it comes to setting your shutter speed for video, and what you want to do is you want to set your shutter speed at double your frame rate. So for example, if you're shooting at 24 frames per second, you would want to set your shutter speed at or as close to 1/48th of a second. Now a lot of consumer grade cameras, including the Sony a6500 on which I'm filming this current video, don't offer 1/48th of a second shutter speeds, so I would just bump it up to 1/50th and you're good to go. And the same will apply if you're shooting at say 30 frames per second or any other frame rate. You would just simply double the frame rate, and that's what you want to set your shutter speed at. Now obviously this is just a guideline. You don't have to set your shutter speed to double your frame rate. If you have certain creative needs, for example, let's say you want additional motion blur in your shots, you can always lower your shutter speed a little bit, and the inverse is true as well. If you want to freeze some of the action in your shot, you can raise up that shutter speed. Or if you're in a dark environment and you need to let a little bit more light into the sensor, you can turn your shutter speed down just enough to where you're letting in more light, but you're not adding too much motion blur into the scene. And the same thing goes for brighter environments. You may at times need to increase your shutter speed to limit the amount of light that comes in and hits the sensor of your camera, and you can usually get away with increasing the shutter speed just enough to where you're not sacrificing some of that natural motion blur. Anyway, shutter speeds and frame rates, there you go. It doesn't have to be complicated. I hope you found this helpful, and if you did, you know what to do. Leave a like on this video and come back and see us tomorrow, because we'll be back with another tutorial. Bye-bye.